Yeah. How do I fix that so it's not showing everything? Let's just expand you to right there. Yep, alright. Okay, everybody. Today, I'm out of ideas. So I'm doing I'm doing a tier list for World of Warships ranked battles right now. So I have my pile of ships right here. We're gonna have to shrink them and everything to put them in there because, well, it's obviously quite big. So we should probably make that bigger. Something about that is telling me that we probably need to make that bigger. There we go. Oh wait, no, not there we go. Well, now it's too big. Alright, so you can see, okay. We are good. You don't want that. Yeah, so without further ado, no, get that off there. Without further ado, let's just get started. So, to begin us with, you have the new, shut up. Shush. Shush, no one cares about you. Shut up. Go. Shoo. Go away. You have the new Japanese cruiser, the Agano, which is a Japanese light cruiser that they're adding to the game. It's the first one of the light cruiser line. I have gotten this one for free because of the early access, so I can judge it based on how it is, really. So first off, we have Agano, which it's kind of a mixture of everything. It's a ship. It'll be a long video, just so you know. One of the first pros that I noticed about this ship was definitely its torpedoes and torpedo damage. The torpedoes have a range of around 12 kilometers, which is longer than most DDs of Tier 5. And they do a ton more damage than most destroyers of Tier 5. The one torpedo, keep in mind this thing can launch two quad torpedo launchers on, or no, it's only one side, but it can launch two quad torpedo launchers. Has two. And each torpedo, whenever they're maxed out, does around 22,000 damage. So you can easily dev strike things if you're torpedoes. Only problem is concealment. Your concealment sucks. So does your guns. Your guns are some of the lowest pinning guns of all Tier 5. Like, you might be thinking, well, duh, it's a light cruiser, you're gonna get some pins, but none. No, you're not getting any pins. Unless you know where to aim, you're not getting any penetrations in this ship. And that's one of the reasons why I'm probably gonna rank it a little low compared to the other ones. And it is so easy to Citadel if you don't know how to counter it. Like, you see this? All this area? It's all this area? This is all at Citadel. The Citadel is above water, and you cannot get overpinned because of how thick it is. If you want to get overpinned, you're going to want to be in a Tier 8 match. But it wouldn't even matter, because if you're getting overpinned by Tier 8 guns, you're still getting chunks of your damage taken away. That's basically considered a Citadel. But we don't have to care. We don't have to worry about Tier 8 or Tier 7 or Tier 6 because it's only Tier 5. So, obviously, it's probably better, right? No. It's not even close to being better at Tier 5. Its guns can't pin anything still. You maybe get a few penetrations on a BB or a heavy cruiser, but not a lot. Terrible DPM, I believe. Terrible DPM, I think. Don't Yeah, I think. Terrible DPM, I believe. And, at least from my experience, if you know how to play the ship, then you're golden. Like, if you got into Kashi from the bundles, you're fine. Or Shimanto, you probably figured it out. I've gone to a mono, so I don't know much about the line. But if you know a lot about the line, you can do a good job. Like, it might be a B tier if you understand the line. Is my mic on? Can you hear me fine? So, if you understand the line, it's easily at least a B tier. I can't rank it any higher because, well, it doesn't deserve to go any higher. I'm not saying I don't like it, just saying I don't like it. So, if you're bad at it, it's probably going to end up being a D tier. But if you're good at it, it's a B tier. So we're going to put it in B tier. Alright, next up, you have... Shut up. Next up, you have the British battlecruiser Tiger. This is definitely a ship. Not a bad ship. Guns are amazing, and you have amazing fire chances. But, so these are the pros of this ship. You have amazing guns. You have decent fire chances compared to other British battleships. Which technically is called a battleship in my house for some reason. You have good fire chances, and you have good reload. And you're very fast. Because you have an engine boost. And torpedoes. So a decent player can easily pull out a 100,000 damage game. Can he win a 1v1 brawling? Probably. But if you have like the entire team going against you, there's only like 1 or 2 ships in this tier list that can survive the entire team getting shoved at you. So because of that, it's not a bad ship, but it's also not a good ship. Good ships are probably going to either be the Russians, Japanese, or premiums. So I'm probably, because of the torpedoes, engine boost, and high caliber guns, I'll put it in B tier with the Agano. Oh my god. Alright, next we have the British battleship, the second one, the Iron Duke. My first experience in this ship, I did 120,000 damage and got 3 kills. It's a really good ship. Then again, I was top tier, but in ranked, you have decent armor, so that other tier 5 ships find it hard to penetrate you. But in your bow section, mid section, like right here, you might have a decent chance of bouncing some sails. But mainly in the bow area and the stern area is where you're going to get penetrated. Anything right here, if you're angled, you're fine. If you're not angled, it's gonna be like getting shot broadside by any battleship. Like, imagine being in any battleships and you're getting shot whenever you're broadside. That's basically what's going to happen with Iron Duke. Now, it's not Tiger. Tiger didn't have armor, but Iron Duke does have armor. And Iron Duke has decent guns, not quite Tiger level guns, but it has a better fire chance. So I'll probably also put the Iron Duke next to the Tiger in B tier. I promise we're not just going to be throwing all these into B tier. Alright, next up, we have the Emerald. This is one of those ships where you kind of have to understand what you're doing if you want to live. Because it's such an easy citadel. And if you're lucky, you'll get overpinned. But if you're a tier 10 player going back down to tier 5, you're going to be good in this ship. This ship, very good. My friend hates it. He's a Minotaur player. He hates it, and he's a Minotaur player, so it might be wrong there. But if you go back down to Emerald from tier 10, which is kind of why I did with Königsberg. I've been playing Hindenburg for a while now, but I went back down to Königsberg and used my Hindenburg strategies, and I did amazing in Königsberg. So it kind of is probably the same thing with Emerald. But if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be a D tier. But even if you do know what you're doing, it's still just a C tier. Apparently. Somehow. Alright, next up. Hawkins. Now this is a ship I can respect. It's an easy citadel. However, you can easily dodge it from getting citadeled. And it has a British AP. And British HE. So you're set. And torpedoes with long range. So if you enjoy like the Japanese cruisers, where it's pretty squishy, but decent guns and decent torpedoes, you'll do good in Hawkins in ranked. Because it's just going against tier 5s, like I said, for most of these. So Hawkins, I'm going to put it in B tier. I'm hesitant to put anything in like A tier yet. Because you still have so many ships. So far, only one kind of bad ship. Then you have the Acasta. I don't know if this is Acasta. The more I look at it, I realize it's not. But this is gonna be Acasta for now. Acasta. I haven't had that much experience in it. But from what I've seen other players playing it with it, it's like any other DD. If you can stay in smoke and spam torpedoes, you're fine. So I'm going to put it in C tier. Armor scheme is like any other DD. Guns like any other DD. It's basically your average DD. And now, you're moving on to the Germans. We have finished the British and that one Japanese one. We start out with the Derfinger. Derfinger, you're going to get overmatched a lot, even by tier 5s. But your bow armor is so good that if you angle, you can bounce a lot of shells, and your secondaries are not Agincourt level, but they're pretty good. So because you can push in this ship really well against like at least 3 different ships, you have a decent chance of carrying in this ship too. Decent chance. Not saying you will. If you play it right, you can easily do like 120,000. Not easily. You'll have to fight to 120,000. If your team sucks, you can do 120,000. How about that? So if you're playing this, pray that your team sucks. But let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's hope that you don't have to carry. But Derfinger, because it's a good carrier, or not carrier, we're gonna put it in, let's put it in B tier again. But from the looks of things, a lot of these are going in B tier. Koenig. It has German AP, but it's by far one of the slower German battleships. I think because of just the speed and how much superstructure you have on this ship. Don't get me wrong, it has good secondaries, but it doesn't live up to like Derfinger secondaries. So it does have German bow armor and has German AP, but your guns won't be doing much against a like against an angled target. So I'm gonna have to put C tier. I'm trying not to be too harsh with these because after all they are tier 5s. And now you have my personal favorite for ranked battles, Königsberg. Me coming from this is another thing like Emerald. If you're coming from tier 10 and you enjoy games like Hindenburg's games and stuff, you'll do fine in Königsberg. Königsberg is amazing if you use, like, it's the long-range farmer. If you farm from a long range, you'll be fine. Not great, but fine. And use islands for cover sometimes. And if it's a broadsiding cruiser or battleship, and you know you can penetrate, switch to your AP, because German AP. I don't think I have to speak much more about that. So, this might be our first A tier. Yeah. So, Königsberg, our first A tier, which might come as a shock to a lot of you. Then you have T-22. It's basically a Costa, but it has German AP, which you're rarely going to use. But if you're lucky, you can Citadel cruiser with it, and you can use its torps to take out BBs. So I'm going to put this one instead of a Costa. With a Costa, I'm going to put it into B tier. Then you have the Peter. This, easily an A tier battleship for ranked. Because it has Russian bias, meaning that if you angle all the way and time your broadsides correctly, you can easily do 100,000 damage in ranked. So this is... Only downfall is that if you broadside for too long and the enemy actually reloads, you're going to get a huge chunk of HP taken from you, or you're just going to get dev struck, depending on how many enemies are shooting you at once. So I'm going to place this one at A tier. But keep in mind, Peter is a situational ship. And then you have Kodaski. I haven't played Kodaski in a while, but based on Karov, I'm guessing this is like a Karov class or something close to it. Russian bias works, and it doesn't work well because it's a cruiser. But you can easily do the damage, but it's torpedoes. Oh, it's torpedoes. They're not great. They're 4-kilometer torpedoes, but if you push into a target, you'll get good damage from them. So I'm going to put this one in C tier because of number one, Russian bias doesn't work that well on it, and number two, torpedoes. And it's an easy Citadel. Then you have Podolsky. This is the first destroyer that I was actually impressed with, because it's a good destroyer v destroyer ship, especially in ranked. But if you get shot at by anything else while playing against a DD, you might get destroyed quite easily, unless you have a flag or something on that makes your enemy Dazzler, I believe. It makes your enemies firing less accurate. So, it being the first destroyer that actually impressed me at tier 5, I'm going to put it in B tier. Actually, let's do C tier, because it is a situational ship. Only reason I put Peter in A tier whenever it's a situational ship is because, well, even in bad situations, you can still, quite easily do high damage. Then you have New York. I believe this is New York. Yeah, this is New York. Yeah. New York. It's a decent BB. I give it that. It's an American battleship. Only its Citadel is low in the water. So it's it's out of the water, but it's also low. It can get Citadeled by any other battleship quite easily. Especially some of the ones coming up. It will get Citadeled. Peter and Agincourt and Rio de Janeiro, they can all Citadel New York if you aim in the right place. Also, I think it's a good time to say I'm only using battleships that I'm only using the tier 5 ships that I've personally used and liked, or any tier 5 ship I've used. So here you have the New York. easy to Citadel if you aim in the right places, which kind of degrades it because it has so many guns. But if you push, you can only use 2 of them. Unless you're smart and pushing smartly, you might be okay. So because it's an easy Citadel, I'll have to put it in C tier. Like, it's not an easy Citadel, but once you get the hang of figuring out where the Citadel is, you're gonna be Citadeling them every day. Oh boy. Look who's next. Omaha. I've yet to grind through the American cruisers, so I had no experience with them. Not that much experience with them. So my experience in Omaha during ranked battles wasn't great. And I never see any other Omaha doing great because of their Citadel. Again, they're basically a Citadel city. Which is never good whenever you're a Tier 5 cruiser and Tier 5 ranked. So I think Omaha might end up being our first D tier. Because number one, you can Citadel it from any angle. Whilst Königsberg and Kodeski, they have to be pretty much flat broadside for you to Citadel them. Whilst in Omaha, you can be angled and you'll still get Citadeled. Next up, you have Nicholas. If you like American destroyers, you'll enjoy Nicholas. It's a good... Sure, that's an understatement. It's an amazing destroyer. I even liked it, and I'm not a destroyer player. Good at destroyer v destroyer combat. It can farm BBs and cruisers and make them burn and pay for trying to get into their cap. But if you get detected, you're done for. Because everybody knows to target the Nicholases. Like anybody should target destroyers. So Nicholas, it'll probably end up being a B tier for me personally. Congo. It's a good battleship. It's not even a battleship actually. It's technically a battle cruiser. One of the better Tier 5 battleships range-wise, not accuracy-wise. Because if you're trying to shoot Congo at range, I always like to brawl. But if you're trying to shoot Congo using your range, 9 times out of 10 you're not going to hit anything. Because of how little guns you actually have. You have 8 guns, which sounds great. It's not. Because with more guns, you have a better chance of actually hitting the target. Because at least one of your shots will penetrate. With Congo, if you miss, you're missing completely. So it'll probably end up being... Let's put it in B tier. Because it's not an easy Citadel. But you have terrible armor. Great. Okay, not an easy Citadel, terrible armor, terrible accuracy, and kind of slow actually. So it's probably going to be our first D tier battle cruiser. Now you have Furutaka, which is like a Gano, but better armor and better guns. So we'll probably put it in the same... Let's move a Gano down to B tier. Yeah. Let's do that. Gano down to B tier now. We're going to replace it with Furutaka. Alright, so Furutaka takes Agano's place because better armor, better guns, easier to farm with, and you can set so many more fires. Then you have the 2 Japanese destroyers. First you have Mutsuki, which I don't know. Actually, wait, is it Yamutsuki? It's a torpedo boat that has more guns than torpedoes. However, Mitsuki being a torpedo boat, its torpedoes do more damage than Minakaze, but you also have to suffer a longer reload, whilst Minakaze can spam torpedoes. So, Mitsuki, probably B tier. Probably. Yeah, it seems like B tier material. It's not great, but it's not bad. Now, you have the king of all tier 5 deities, Minakaze. If you want a torpedo boat, don't play Mutsuki, which sounds stupid because it is a torpedo boat. Play Minakaze. Because Minakaze's reload, even though her torpedoes don't do that much damage, is easily one of the better tier 5 DD reloads. That's why it's so hard to fight one or Kamikaze, is because their reload is literally 40 seconds. And Kamikaze's is even worse. I think it's like 30. So every half a minute, this thing will probably end up launching torpedoes at you, which is not fun to deal with. Half a minute to 45 seconds. So easily one of the best tier 5 destroyers that you can get. So A tier. And now you have October Revolucia, which was one of my first premiums actually. Revolucia? October Revolucia, or Octorevolucia, that's what I call it. It is what the Ganget should have been. Easily an A tier, and I can explain why. It's terrible Citadel, but its guns do the damage, and Russian Bias uses this thing hard. So easily A tier, unless you just get farmed upon by every single cruiser, or if you get unlucky and get destroyed by another enemy battleship, because your Citadel is right there like Peter. Next up, Agincourt. Best secondaries at tier 5. Somebody try and prove me wrong like, if there's one ship that needs a secondary nerf badly, it's Agincourt. Because its secondaries carry it up to at least a B tier. It's at least B tier material. I say B tier because its armor sucks, guns suck. Well, there's a ton of guns, so they do suck. They're small, but they pack a punch because there's so many of them. Like, if your guns actually hit the target, you'll be doing at least 10,000 damage. 10,000 minimum. 10,000 to 20,000 in one barrage. So B tier. And then Rio de Janeiro will probably end up being one tier below it, so at C tier. Because Rio de Janeiro is basically Agincourt with higher pin. Wait, no. It's kind of a tie, actually, with Rio de Janeiro and Agincourt, because Rio de Janeiro trades I think Rio de Janeiro trades the Agincourt's secondaries for better pin. Because Agincourt has terrible pin, but good secondaries, whilst Rio de Janeiro, these are the last 3 ships, whilst Rio de Janeiro has terrible secondaries, but pretty good guns and accuracy. So Rio de Janeiro will probably end up being B tier 2. So kind of fitting, actually. Then you have Karov. Easily at least C tier. It's like Kodeski. Russian Bias is a little better on this one. HE is better, but if you're flat broadsiding, you can get Citadel'd by Königsberg HE, which is kind of sad. So it'll probably end up going to C tier. Then you have the final one, which is Hill. It's like Nicholas, but it's better at farming targets. But it has better torps and it's better at farming targets. So it'll go one tier. Where did I put Nicholas? There's Nick. Okay, so it's at least a B tier. I might move. Yeah, no, I'm gonna move Congo to at least C tier, so I don't get hate. Let's move Congo to at least C tier. So this is my ranking of tier 5 battleships that I've played that I recommend you guys use in ranked. So the top 4: Königsberg, which is kind of situational. Peter, also situational, but you can tear through the entire enemy team. Minikaze, because of its torp reload, and October Revolutia because of its guns and Russian bias. The next few that I would recommend is, if you don't have access to these, Furitaka, Tiger, Iron Duke, Hawkins, Durfinger, T-22, Mutsuki, Agincourt, Rio de Janeiro, or Hill. Then ones that I wouldn't really recommend, but if you're tight on budget, I'd recommend Emerald, Acosta, Koenig, Kodeski, Podovisky, New York, Nicholas, Agano, Karov, and Congo. Then one I just wouldn't recommend at all is Omaha. You would probably notice that I haven't used the French, and this is gonna be part 1 of a series. That's why there's only like half the ships here. In part 2, I'll have the other nations. Don't worry, I had to split it up because it was just too much for this to handle all the images. So we had to do like America, Japan, Russia, and Britain, along with like all the premiums that I could think of. So yeah, this is basically the final one. No E or F tiers because, well, tier 5 you don't really have that bad of ships at tier 5. In a good situation, you can just destroy people. So thank you for watching. This is part 1 of a series of tier lists. Tomorrow I probably will drop a video of me ranking ships for tier 9 brawls, which will probably be three other ones that I can think of. So like there's gonna be Palmer, Nazeer, Sieg,